Good evening. I'd like to call the North Augusta City Council study session for Monday, December the 11th, 2023 to order. And it's great to see so many people out there, our friends from Augusta and our citizens from North Augusta. It's nice to have people at the study session. So anyway, welcome everybody. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to our city administrator, Mr. Jim Clifford.
Mr. Mayor, as is our practice, we'll be going through the City Council agenda for next week, followed by the department details led by our directors, and then two focus items tonight, presentations each from North Augusta Forward and Augusta Tomorrow. So going right into our agenda, what I would like to highlight for all those here is that we'll be recognizing Chief John Thomas's last City Council meeting next Monday, culminating his long years of service both as a sworn law enforcement officer here in the state of South Carolina, and more importantly as our Chief of Public Safety. So we'll be sending him off here in a public forum next week, and be sorry to see him go.
Last study session too.
That's correct. And then under old business, you have two planning and development items, the first being ordinance number 2023-32, which is adopting the new North Augusta Development Code. Again, we've had a lot of discussion on that through various study sessions and also in the previous council meeting, so this would be the second reading of that ordinance. And again, our staff recommendation is still to proceed in its current form and then look at amendments, at some other time. And then the second item under planning and development is ordinance number 2023-33 to amend the zoning map of the city of North Augusta for rezoning a plus or minus 0.29 acres of land owned by Charlie Britt, which this is a parcel that's in the downtown corridor. We've discussed this at length, and again, staff recommendation is still to move forward and approve that. And then moving into new business, as I talked about in the study session, the strategy remains the same. The implementation may be somewhat different in that the first item you see there under administration is resolution number 2023-50, which is our SLRF/ARPA request number 10. And that's the funding mechanism to accomplish the next series of resolutions. So this sets aside a dollar amount, and as of today, I do not have that total dollar amount because we're still evaluating some of the bid proposals, which should be completed by Wednesday of this week. So when you get your council packet on Friday, you'll have hard numbers associated with that. But I would tell you those numbers will be a little bit lower than we originally discussed, and I'll get to that here in a minute. So the first item after the SLRF request number 10 will be for letting a contract, professional engineering services contract, for the creation of an impact fee structure and capital improvement plan. This flows from the discussion that the council had at Greenwood about strategic growth, and in order for, by statute, to have an impact fee in the city of North Augusta, we have to have an approved capital improvement plan, and so this is the first step in that. So we received 3 bids. Mr. Tommy Paradise and his team are evaluating the 3 proposals as a request for qualifications, and we should have that in ready to go. So ultimately, I feel confident you're going to see this resolution with a hard number and an actual contractor going forward. The next item also will be on the agenda, which is item number 11 for Parks and Recreation, resolution number 2023-52, authorizing the city of North Augusta to enter into a contract for the chiller replacement at the Riverview Park Activity Center. And so my intention there is, again, we did that as an RFP, not an RFQ, so we have a low bidder, and we have an intention to award concurrent with council action, and we're also coordinating with Dominion to see if there is a rebate, energy savings rebate. But ultimately what I would do is come to the council with the base cost for the contract, and then whatever contract savings we get through Dominion Energy would just roll back into the ARPA fund at a later date. The next 2 items I'm less confident on for next week from a timing perspective, and those, even though they're listed as Parks and Recreation, those are specifically listed down for the amphitheater project. So as we talked about previous, the first phase of the project is the boat dock and overlook, and actually you'll likely see some mobilization activity for that portion as early as next week. So that portion of the project is going because the design and engineering of that portion was already completed. We're now into the initial engineering drawings we have for the seating area and also for the restroom. The cost factor is one that I really wanted to look at again, so I've got a meeting scheduled with Artie Brown, Cranston Engineering, Parks and Rec. We're going to walk the ground to make sure that we got the scope of the requirements correct, and to see what else can go forward from a value engineering perspective. But I think based on the work we're still doing in staffing, I suspect we're not going to have that in front of the council as had been my initial intention for next week. So I'd rather get those numbers right and make sure we're right and not rush to failure, so to speak, or overspend if we don't need to. So because of that, what would likely happen is have an ARPA request number 11 likely in January tied to a future amphitheater project from there. So while I'd hope to get these 4 items together bundled on ARPA number 10, it looks like we'll at least do those first 2, and the other ones will likely follow unless I'm satisfied at the meeting we're going to have this week that we're ready to move forward. And I'll certainly let y'all know.
Thank you.
Last, under item number 13, engineering, resolution number 2023-54. This is one that Tom Zeser, as our Public Works Director, has authored, entering into a contract form, pavement repair and resurfacing. So we do this as an annual contract, and we bundle a number of our paving aspects together to get a larger bang for the buck, so to speak. And so Tom is got that all put together, and again, we're prepared to be able to do a contract award based on a positive council action next Monday. And then I'm going to skip item 14. The mayor obviously has a number of appointments that he's responsible for, and one of those there is the appointment for the North Augusta Beautification Foundation. That's going to be his recommendation to y'all for the council. And then I'll skip directly to item 15, which is for y'all's consideration, which is the meeting schedule for next year. And so we have a calendar proposal that should be part of your packet that shows when the city council meetings and study sessions are for calendar and fiscal year 2024. And subject to any of the council questions, that's all I have for the agenda review. Hearing none, we'll move to the department details, and first up is Linda Williamson from Finance.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. A couple quick updates. Cycle 2 will have their due date Monday, December 18th, and Cycle 1 will experience their disconnect cycle December 18th and 19th, so that's Monday and Tuesday next week. Also, the finance office will be closed this Friday on December 15th from 11:30 to 1:30 so that our staff can attend the annual employee luncheon.
Do we put something out there so people know that?
Yes, sir. We have signs up right now, and then we may put something out
On
later.
social media, yes.
On social media.
All right, good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next up is James Sutton from Public Services.
Good evening. The Environmental Protection Agency is coming up with some new requirements related to lead and water quality. They are making all the utilities throughout the United States go in and do some inspections of their service lines that connect to the main and provide water service to the homes. In the same, they're requiring staff to inspect the plumbing system where it connects into the meter and inventory those lines and compile all the data and provide that to the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control by October 16th of this year. So we'll start that program in January. The purpose is to reduce the amount of lead that's in the water system. Back in the days gone, in the early 80s, 90s, they used lead-based solder on the plumbing systems, and the same, the galvanized, some of the service lines we have, they used a short section of lead pipe, and what happens is the lead leaches into the water system, causes some bad water quality. By the numbers, our testing on lead, we have 31 sites that we do throughout our water distribution system. Right now, it's 15 milligrams per liter, the maximum containment level for the lead in the system to be detected. Our levels are at 1.7, and that's coming from residential houses, not from our water system. So we'll work on the program, compile the data, and improve the water quality where we can, and work with the homeowners who may have solder on their plumbing systems and let them decide what they want to do about it.
James, I misunderstood your date. You said October? When is it due?
October 16th to 24th.
Of 2024, thank you. Okay.
It allows us enough time.
About to say, you got some-
We'll have it
okay.
significantly, enough time to do what we got to do and turn it into them.
Okay, thank you, James.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor and Council, James and I had this discussion this morning, and so ultimately, we're currently within the EPA guideline regulations. So there's no, even if nothing has occurred between now and October, there's no issues with the drinking water. The drinking water is well within the parameters associated with the EPA requirements, which are stringent. And so what this will be is a reporting requirement, and then we find individual homeowners that have service lines that tie into the water system, that those will be notified, at least through our department, to see what they want to do about those connections. Next up, Tommy Paradise from Planning and Development.
Next Wednesday, December the 20th, we'll be having the Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for all you do, sir.
Next up, Chief Thomas for his final update in a study session to the City Council.
Good evening. As your sheet tells you, we're partnering with Aiken Barnwell Mental Health to have a clinician on site at Public Safety. There's an office that's been set up for her. She's here about twice a week. Our numbers obviously are warranting to have that person here, so we're hoping that it will turn into a good relationship and we can help our people who have some mental health issues in North Augusta. Obviously, the Santa Run continues this week. This is something we started last year with the fire trucks. I know they've been making some rounds Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday of this week, and hopefully finish up next week. And then the last thing, the promotions were held last week, and a lot of you know Kevin Hayes was promoted to the patrol captain, and of course, Lieutenant Velasco went into the training slot that Kevin vacates.
Chief, the Santa Run's getting a ton of great positive feedback on social media.
They are.
So they always do, but thank you for that. That's
And
a
Chief,
great service for the community. Residents love it.
I was going to ask, is there somewhere on social media that people can go and look and see what neighborhoods they're going to be in?
It's on our website, so if they'll go to the public safety website, you'll see them listed in the map. So they were in, Kevin, I don't know if you saw them, they were in our neighborhood Saturday night.
Tonight's the last night, though, right?
I'm sorry?
It's tonight the last night.
No, sir.
Oh, still going, okay.
Still going.
Councilman, also they have it on the North Augusta Public Safety Facebook page,
Facebook page
as well.
too. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Next up, Rick Meyer from PRT.
Okay, Mayor and Council, reminder that Friday at 3:30, we'll have a ribbon cutting at Waterworks Park for the brand-new bridge and the repaved greenway. Number two, R.D. Brown Contractors, as Jim has said, will be mobilizing next week, and with that mobilization will become a closure of the greenway from the amphitheater all the way around to Railroad Avenue, and obviously we'll post that on social media up there at the corner of the clubhouse. And we'll post that on social media and put up blockades as well. And lastly, our youth basketball program currently has 657 registered participants in this year's program.
Awesome. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Next up, Tom Zeser from Public Works.
Good evening. This week, again, the Bluff Avenue streetscape back on the schedule is the crosswalk installation. This is the imprinted decorative crosswalks. That work will take place on Thursday this week. Again, that work will require intermittent lane closures, and particularly at the intersection of West and Bluff Avenue will be the greatest impacted intersection. Also on Bluff Avenue this week, Streets and Drains crews will be installing the new decorative street signage. That'll be the poles and stop signs and the North Augusta logo street name signs throughout the project. Nearby on Alta Vista Avenue, they started last week. Streets and Drains has been doing some ditch maintenance of a section of Alta Vista Avenue. That work will continues this week as well to clean that ditch and to clean various pipes under residential driveways. And then lastly, similar to finance, the Building Standards Business Office will also be closed on Friday for the Employee Appreciation Banquet from 11:30 to 1:30.
I want to thank you for jumping on top of the Alta Vista when that came to our attention. Appreciate your folks.
And Tom, is there any plans to do with the ditches at Alta Vista similar to what we've done to Bluff in the future? Is that in the, I don't know if that's ever been considered.
Yes, that project has been on our road reconstruction project list. Has been up for funding several times throughout history, and hopefully it'll make it on a future.
Yeah.
You heard of kicking the can.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, if you look around the city, there's probably not a whole lot of places with open ditches anymore. I wouldn't imagine. Bluff and Alta Vista come to mind. I'm sure there's some others, but generally,
Don't
I think
forget
they're well-
Ridgecrest Avenue.
Yeah,
all those-
Ridgecrest,
All
yeah.
those are on the list.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
I was just going to add too. Hopefully, y'all have a lot of before and after pictures of Bluff Avenue because it looks really good. I was out there the other day, and I've had just such positive comments and seeing the light poles go up and everything. It's like night and day different. So it's exciting to see it come to fruition.
Yeah, we do. We believe that the lights will be illuminated sometime this week as well.
Great.
Thank you, Tom.
Next up will be Kayla Ferguson from HR.
Evening, Mayor and Council. You'll see our employment opportunities on the back of your department details. The list went down a little bit this week, which is great things. And then of course, our employee luncheon on Friday. We would love for you all to be there. So,
Also, Mr. Mayor, just as a note regarding the department details, based on the council action to separate tourism out from Parks and Recreation, that at the very first council update study session in January, tourism will get its own line next to PR. So just wanted to highlight that. So you'll have one additional department to brief come next month.
Very good, thank you.
All right, I think we're going into focus items, and based on the baton order that I have, it looks like we'll be getting a presentation from Augusta tomorrow on their downtown development plan and a request from North Augusta. And so I'd ask Lauren or whoever else is going to present, and John Engler, and the team to come down and take their place here at the podium. Or if they need to operate from a desk, I'll be happy to give mine up as well.
If you would, whoever speaks, John, if you go first, if you don't mind, everybody knows y'all, but if you would just state your name and address for the record,
Yes, Mayor. Yes,
and we'll
sir.
turn it all over for you.
Thank you all very much, Council, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for being here. My name is John Engler. My address is 3320 Gwynns Lane, Augusta, Georgia. We are excited to be here tonight to talk with you all about Augusta tomorrow and what we've got kind of going on. So we've got a brief presentation kind of the history of Augusta tomorrow that we'll run through kind of quickly. So Augusta tomorrow was formed in 1982. That's fine. We worked on some landmark projects together. I was obviously a child at that point, so I was not involved. But Riverwalk, obviously everybody knows around Augusta, the Fifth Street Bridge, and some major changes have come across through the years in the last couple decades. So if you want to go to the next page, Jamie, we could show some of the, these are some of the previous pictures everybody saw back in the days when things were a struggle, downtowns and things that were going on with suburban America. As you can see, we've come in these areas now that everybody knows, and if you look to the next page, we've collaboratively worked together not only with leaders in Augusta, but also a lot of leaders inside of North Augusta. We've worked hard with North Augusta Forward, both economic development teams, to really kind of create an unbelievable private-public partnership. As part of that, recently, we've collaborated in the 2009 study that we did through the Westaboo. Was a master study that you guys were a part of. In that study particularly, we had what you see here, a lot of these pictures here, the government building that we're sitting in now, some improvements to the Riverwatch, the Commons, the Morrises and their Marriott across the street, as well as the apartment and the Morrises apartment in y'all's hotel here on the North Augusta side of the river. A bottom picture. So these are some recent collaborations that we've done with our group, working with you guys. Most notably, I think most everybody on this commission would know, or this council would know, the 13th Street Bridge, the partnership we created with you guys to create a continual path from as far out as Columbia County, all down on our side of the canal, all through you guys, Greenway. Soon here shortly, we'll be able to, never be able to get off of a bike, skates, whatever anybody wants to do, which is an unbelievable betterment for our entire city and community. As part of this last master plan, as I said, things that were on there that were slightly different than they are now was the baseball stadium, but the baseball stadium was in one of two spots, and so obviously the baseball stadium's now on the North Augusta side of the river. The municipal building was there. We now have the Fifth Street Bridge, which we feel like is an area that definitely needs some improvement for our next major market study that we're talking about. And we now have obviously the downtown hotel. In 2009, when these studies came out, which North Augusta again was a part of and participated in, these buildings weren't necessarily in the correct locations that they show up now and per that study. However, what we're seeing is that a lot of these things did come to fruition. And so, as part of our package, if you go, Jamie, to the next page. We're coming to a stage now. Obviously, this talks about our partnerships together. We're working together, the 13th Street Bridge, the 5th Street Bridge, and things like that. We're now to a point kind of where we talk about our next need and vision for 2024, which is a major master plan that we're doing in the city of Augusta. The city of Augusta's bought into this study. We've got public participation from the city. We've also received some private donations, which we'll continue to do. We want that to be a major part of this deal is a 50% public-private partnership by both parties. And as part of that, this study, we definitely would like to see North Augusta to be a part of it. North Augusta was a part of this study in 2009. We think this is a major step in the right direction for the future and the betterment. I think as a whole, we all know this. For both sides, if we didn't have that river, we'd be basically one community. The river tends to divide us. But what we've come up with is a master plan that we feel like can improve lifestyles in the downtown urban area for both sides of the river, as well as continue some of our partnerships together for the better part of this whole study. The study was, right now we have 11 qualified bidders that have put in a study for this market. At that time, we certainly would, hopefully in the near future, shorten that down to a very small group of probably 4 or 5 presenters that we feel like would be good for this market. We're very fortunate to have Jim sit on our board at Augusta tomorrow as part of the deal. He's a great communicator and leader for y'all's side of the river, so you do have seats at the table. We want you guys to be a part of the table. We think that's a huge part of this process. And so, as such, I'll go to the next slide, Jamie. In 2009, again, this was a study that was done, and this was the cost that was participated by all entities involved with these efforts. Again, the $286,000 was that back then. $95,000 came from the city of Augusta, $35,000 from the city of North Augusta, $33,600 from Augusta Canal Authority, $12,615 from Augusta Morrow, and then $110,000 in contributions from other partners and local businesses. And then we make it a policy within our board that we want 100% participation from all of our board members in some way, shape, or fashion. This currently is the outline of the map in which we have sent out to all of our prospective proposers for this master plan. As you can see, a big chunk encompasses North Augusta. I'm going to let Tom Robertson come up here and talk a little bit more about some areas that he knows more particularly associated from things that weren't done from the last master study. Things like the 5th Street Bridge that just kind of, we don't go really both sides of the river, so not being adequately used properly right now. However, we did improve the bridge. And so I'd like to bring Tom up and let him talk about some of those areas that we can improve those areas there, as well as some other areas in the urban atmosphere up here.
Thank you, John. Well, Augusta tomorrow's been at this since
Tom, state your name and
I'm sorry?
if you don't mind.
Okay, Tom Robertson. 947 Meg Street, Augusta, Georgia. Augusta Tomorrow's been at this planning business and implementing it for a long time, beginning in 1982, but there's been a series of plans after that. As soon as enough of the projects got done, it was time to plan again, and that's kind of what we're at. This is like about 4 or 5 times it's been done, but the last 2 times have been pretty comprehensive, and John showed you this little diagram up here, which is just a magic marker on a map to give the proposed consultant some idea of what we're talking about. This is a smaller footprint than 2009, mainly because we found out we had too many things in there, so really just need to kind of bring things in and focus on things that either still need to be done or areas that have opportunities where they could be done. Some things that were in the 2009 plan in North Augusta that really didn't get done. One of those, and really it's not even in the boundary we're showing here, but it was a city entrance along East Martintown Road from the Aiken-Augusta Highway. There are a number of underutilized properties in there, and still are, really not much different from that in that period of time. That seems like still an opportunity for economic development in that area. There was also, of course, the Augusta's Fifth Street Bridge area, which is a peculiar spot because at that time there was a proposal from the planners to do a pretty big mixed-use development on both sides of the river. Maybe that was one project, maybe it was 2 different ones, and then the bad economic times came along and the Augusta side fell by the wayside, and the only thing that stood was the catalyst that was supposed to connect the 2 of them, this footbridge, which Augusta spent about $10 million on, and it goes from nowhere to nowhere. So it seems like a pretty good opportunity to do. And just, I did, after that last plan, I did some work with Skip Gerkovic then to see what could be done in the Hamburg area there, because his idea was he didn't want to repeat the problems that it perceived with Hammond's Ferry, because once you got the plan out there in front of the public, all of a sudden the value of the land went up, so nobody could afford to buy it. So, as a result of that, the city actually did purchase a number of parcels of land down there, and you actually own some of the land now too, which might be worth taking a look at what could be done with those city lands there. And also off the edge of that map is about the 30-acre Simpkins property along the river there, which is various ones have looked at, but that kind of seems like coordinated together. And on the Georgia side, there's a pretty large bunch of lands there that seem ripe for development and maybe could work together. That was a function. I'm sorry, that's a long-winded way of telling you. There's an opportunity there, sort of like a barbell. And then just looking at what you might also think about is the 13th Street Bridge. We've been working with a committee of across the river, getting Georgia DOT to see the light and make the bridge be more of a complete street, and that's going to work out pretty well. One of the items that was in the last plan was development around the City Hall. And of course, North Augusta Forward has started that, but there's still more work to be done there, seems like, to make that work out good. And then looking forward, the river itself is pretty much an opportunity for special events. Your new amphitheater improvements and the docks along the river really make some ideas could come about for special events, assuming we still have the pool. And one of the things that really underlies all of that is keeping that waterway there, which is basically a lake. It's a long, skinny lake, but I think to keep that in the front of everybody's mind that we need to do whatever we can to work together to keep that pool there. I probably left out some stuff, but I would say the planning boundary with a nationally known set of consultants. We don't know who they are quite yet, but they'll, I'm sure, bring some new ideas from elsewhere that we hadn't even conceived of. So, and the boundary would be sort of fluid, and, if it needed to move a little bit one way or the other, I think that's probably fine. So,
Hi, I'm Lauren Dallas. I'm at 1003 Meg Street in Augusta, Georgia. Thank you all very much for having us. I wanted to mention a few things about where we are in the selection process. We did receive 11 responses to our RFQ, and very, very detailed responses and great work that we have the opportunity to work with. Something I thought that might be worth mentioning is, in looking at a lot of these proposals, is many of them had worked on plans for downtowns where two cities were in different states. I'm originally from Kentucky. My mom is from northern Kentucky, and so I spent a lot of time there. I even lived in Cincinnati. And if you think about how cities like that really complement each other, granted, Cincinnati is a much larger MSA than Augusta is, but more often than not, the only really thing dividing you is a bridge. And fortunately, moving forward, we do have a very nice bridge coming our way. And I think the most telling thing for that project is how well that Augusta Tomorrow, State of Georgia, worked with North Augusta Forward, the City of North Augusta, and the South Carolina representatives. That was very early in my tenure as Augusta Tomorrow Executive Director. I started in 2020, and this project was pretty much underway. But all it took was just the start from, those groups getting together and making sure it is a good quality of life amenity to both of our cities. So that's where we are in the process. We have not chosen finalists. If we do have your support, we would love to have someone from North Augusta and much more involved. Obviously, Administrator Clifford has been a very helpful board member to us, and his wealth of knowledge has been instrumental to our process. If you want to go to the next slide. So this is where we are in terms of cost. So we have actually made some progress since these numbers, but we do believe that it is going to cost about $400,000. Of course, we would like to spend a lot less, but with rising prices and cost of consultants these days, that is what we are shooting for. We have requested and received $150,000 from the City of Augusta. We have received some other private sector contributions as well, and from other NGOs. And we do expect 100% board participation from Augusta Tomorrow. And we just really need to make sure that the private sector is as involved in this process as the public sector. We cannot plan for the future without both sides. We need to make sure that those who are in control of the land are at the table. So we want to make sure that the City of North Augusta is also involved in this process. Officially, we are requesting support of $50,000 from the City of North Augusta. And we would appreciate it if you did. I'm trying to think if I have another slide. If you think about the total cost and where we are in the process, we do believe that this is going to be a great return on investment for the City of North Augusta. If you refer back to that planning boundary, there is, if not 50%, it is a very large section of North Augusta. And so we do want to make sure that North Augusta is involved for that very same reason that I mentioned about the consultants is these two downtowns really need to start complementing each other. And I believe they do. I believe that the bridge will help, both bridges. We just have to really start planning for the future so that we don't have to work backwards. And so I believe the last slide is a list of our membership. If you are present today, I do want to make note that Tom Robertson is the co-chair of this plan committee. John Cates is the plan committee chair. John Engler sits on our plan committee, and Robert Osborne is our resident historian. I didn't say it. So if you look at this list, you know that these are people that really just don't sit around. We want to make sure that things happen. We want to make sure that things are implemented. That is why Augusta Tomorrow was created, is so that a plan does not sit on a shelf and just collect dust. We want to make sure that it happens, which is why this is just the beginning. The planning process will be what it is when we get that result, and then that's when our work begins, is the implementation phase. So we appreciate your time. Anything? Anything else to add? And I welcome you to ask any questions.
Lauren, thank you very much and really appreciate everything Augusta Tomorrow does. You've been an amazing asset for the entire CSRA, especially Augusta for sure. So what's the flexibility? Because you talk about the downtown, but in this red line here, I mean, our downtown, quite frankly, goes beyond T's. So part of our vision is we're trying to connect our downtown proper to the Riverside Village. So I would think if we're talking about downtowns, that would need to go up. I mean, because if we're really talking about planning, ideally what we need is probably East and West Avenue, West and East Avenue, alleyways for that whole part. Maybe going all the way up to almost where the church is, because that really is kind of downtown proper. That's what I'm saying. So part of that would be like East Buena Vista with what's happening on that end. I almost feel like that line, I don't know how much flexibility, but that definitely, all that would need to be encompassed, I would say.
This was a Zoom issue.
Well, you know, I think that makes a lot of sense. If you look a little further back in time, you all had a plan for that in 1996 that really had the area you just described was there, and I think that could be done quite well. And in fact, as a result of that 1996 plan, that's why this building is where it is, because that was one of the key parts of that. And I had mentioned, the other entrance to the city. That's not in this magic marker line either. So I don't think the line is really cast in stone in any way. The notion was just to shrink it down to a little bit manageable, and if it needs to go this way and that way, then on something that makes sense, I think that makes perfect sense to do that.
What type of guidelines did you give when you submitted that out for the consultants? I mean, what parameters did you give them? How do they know what they're looking at? I mean,
Well,
what are they looking at so we know?
Well, we're looking at multi
Excuse me.
talented teams that would have an economist, probably designers, urban designers, people that deal with downtowns all over the country. And really not because it's architecture, it's sites, it's economic opportunities, how you make them, put them on the land, and make them be essentially an economic engine for the downtown area. So whether those are public projects or private projects, I think that would remain to be seen. The other thing is to craft a public involvement process. The notion is that this would be done with a series of meetings of input from the public, and I think probably got some good ideas that would come out of that. There would be a steering committee of citizens, probably 20 to 25 people that would represent stakeholders in the area that would meet regularly with the consultants so that the plan is, well, through the process, you need to identify some champions. That is, those people that can actually make things happen. Because if it's an idea that's on paper that doesn't have somebody that wants to get it done, it's harder to get it done when you get through. So hopefully through that process, you would identify some number of champions. I don't know whether that answers your question exactly.
Tom, let me ask this. Y'all have a lot more entities, which I'm assuming is to your advantage, or maybe it's your disadvantage, or how you look at it. But y'all have got a lot more entities in the downtown proper area of Aiken of Augusta that's doing things that y'all are working with. What type of buy-in have you gotten from those different organizations? Are they a part? Are they aware of this? Are they involved in it? I mean, how's that look?
Well, we have a couple of dozen ones that are represented on our board, and those people, most of them own property or own infrastructure in the downtown area. We haven't done any planning, so that I'm not sure we would expect to have buy-in on projects because we haven't, done any work on that. But I think
the need for a consultant to do a plan is what I'm saying.
The idea is to hire a professional who can put our ideas and our collective ideas on paper in a way that we can implement it over time. That's really the main thing we'd like to see done. And all of our board members are, by the way, all volunteers. So, as you all pretty well are, and we want to see our communities grow and prosper, and that's what we're about. And we're hoping that can happen on both sides of the river is what I think we'd like to see.
Yeah, I've got power guys over there. You do.
Well, and also, we have met, by the way, with North Augusta Forward's Executive Committee,
Right.
giving them a briefing on this here a few weeks ago. They don't meet actually as a board until January, so we can't very well tell you that they, are in favor of. Nobody really expressed objection, but no vote.
So educate us a little bit. In the past, was the focus back in 2009, was a lot of it having to do with land acquisition? Was there a lot of raw land that, hey, here's what we need to do? Is this going to be more focused on developing already owned land? Do you see a need for more land acquisition? You know what I'm saying? Kind of what, just trying to get.
Well, it depends on whether that might.
What's our end game?
Well, that might depend on whether it's a public-private or private project. Truthfully, you'd like it all to be private because that'll all pay taxes. That's which is good.
Yeah.
But what was done before, although the problem before to some degree was the area was too big, and there was. It's kind of like one planner said, if you have a pat of butter and you're going to put it on a piece of bread, you better make sure the piece of bread's small enough so that it looks like you've done something when you get through. But that planned approach by that consultant was to take areas and they identify what they call market creation projects. Those were things that probably wouldn't happen without a public-private partnership. In many cases, they were just private, but a lot of times there's a public part of that, which would be, water and sewer and the infrastructure things that might take to prove to a developer that you're serious about revitalization of a particular area, and then let the private sector take it from there. That's kind of the theory and I would envision something similar to that now. But we're going to have some, pretty much experts that have done this other places, and there's probably some things we hadn't thought of. I hope they are.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, if you don't mind, just add for one of the potential considerations for a two-state plan and across the river plan essentially makes this a more viable option for potential federal funding down the line. So obviously the state of South Carolina is interested in backstopping the city of North Augusta and Aiken County, and obviously the state of Georgia is interested in doing things into Augusta. But if we're trying to do a number of different things, and that could apply to either infrastructure or quality of life things that are eligible for federal grants, having a two-state option that has a consolidated plan together gives you an option. I'm not saying that as a guarantee because I don't know what grants are going to come popping year to year. But in order to compete for something along those lines, you actually have to have a baseline product in order to really have a viable option. So ultimately, this would give some potential options for both cities down the line to be able to compete. And I would imagine that, not speaking for either Augusta Tomorrow or North Augusta Forward, but if that's something that they can collectively do as a public-private partnership across, their lines and then ours with the city of Augusta, that may open up doors for us within a 10-year window, so to speak, during the life of the plan. So just as we talk about it, that's something to consider.
All right, very good.
Those
are my questions. I'm going to open up.
Yeah, I had a quick, for whoever, and I guess call me a negative Nancy a little bit. Well, downtown Augusta, we've seen Deke try to get the ball field. Didn't happen. They were trying to do something along the canal. Didn't happen. How receptive because their commissioners have districts. We do not. We're at large for everywhere in the city. How receptive have Augusta's commissioners been working with y'all? Or is it just, basically you got one commissioner for this downtown area, so, how receptive have they as a whole been trying to move forward with a downtown plan?
Sure, it's a great question. So I'll say this, the great thing is we've gotten a buy-in from the council to pass, and they've already funded their portion of the $150,000 for the project. So the council's 100% on board with it. We also know there's some other stuff going on, to Mayor Britton's point earlier. You know, moving some of these lines around to kind of help things out, I think that's totally doable. What we've been trying to do is just to make sure that we had the right people, the right RFQ out there for the right people to give us proposals. And these 11 folks do kind of meet that guideline. We're also fortunate, we just have now recently, I'm on another side of the committee that's helping with some stuff with Augusta University. And they're going through a major, some grants and some things that are out there. They're doing a major master plan on their campus as well that's got to be due in 2025. So even though they're not part of this triangular piece up here on the map you see on the screen, they will have a seat, not a seat, but their voice will be heard by the consultant, obviously, when he was doing this project as well.
I mean, and the reason I bring that up is, you know, what you had said a minute ago about, hey, will the city provide some infrastructure or do this or do that? You know, I hate to waste all this money and, hey, North Augusta is great, we're going to invest, but then y'all get, you know, railroaded there. You know, if a developer wanted to come in, you know, I'm not sure what happened with the project with the old railroad depot. You know, of course, you hear stuff on the news. I don't know if it's true or not, but the city didn't want to provide either a parking deck or run sewage or something that kind of stopped that. Now, that's what the news reported, and I don't know if that's true or not, but that's my biggest fear.
I think that's true. But I think they've also in the process of trying to fix that as well. So I mean, I think that will also be incorporated as part of the unfinished plan from 2009 to where we are now.
The only thing I was going to add is I do think the boundaries would need to change, because if on our side of the river, when we're looking at our flywheel, I feel like our flywheel is happening on already about 80% of this boundaries for our side. So the far right side probably is still on, when you're looking at the map, kind of where there's opportunity, but most of our opportunity is lying on that East Buena Vista, downtown, everything. But when you look at the current boundaries, I do feel like we're kind of, the direction's already moving for us with our flywheel in that area, so.
Right, I think we're just trying to give a general consensus of what the lines look like.
Councilman, at least in the meetings that I've attended with Augusta Tomorrow, one of the discussions is exactly what you talked about, which is, you know, what's going to happen, you know, with the Fifth Street Bridge, how that ties into either city or county property that's there, and is there an eventual connection to the Greenway, and what would that look like, and does it connect in through East Buena Vista? Does it connect in other places in the city? So ultimately, I think that's a focus area that, at least from what I've been briefed on the Augusta Tomorrow study, is that's a component of theirs as well.
Yeah, I think one thing that's very positive, and I thank Augusta Tomorrow for this. I think as we move forward in the CSRA in the next 10 years and beyond, when I talk about a lot of different entities, you get so many people doing so many different things, nothing gets done. And I think it's going to take leadership from an organization like y'all and for the CSRA to make sure that, hey, a plan comes in place, we actually make it happen. We don't need something just going to put up dust on a booklet on the shelf. So I think y'all, you know, with your board and your leadership, so I'm thanking you for that vision of seeing that, because I think it's going to take somebody to spearhead that going forward. But anyway, any other questions? Ms. Pat?
And I might have missed something on this anticipated plan costs and contribution. Is that for the plans experts to come in and say, we want to do this, that, and the other? But if my memory is correct too, the Fifth Street Bridge, North Augusta was never really asked, did we want to participate with that? We asked, could we use your land to park our equipment? But other than that, I mean, I don't want us to get stuck. I mean, you know, we have a lot of expense in this city now, and I just don't want to get stuck.
Councilwoman,
I don't think that would be in the cards. Actually, the Fifth Street Bridge being a pedestrian bridge was a gimmick, basically, to connect up two things that ended up not happening. But if they had happened, it would make a lot more sense.
Right, yeah. Right. I'm like you. Well, what did you say? Go, start, never go anywhere?
The challenge with the Fifth Street Bridge is probably literally in the beginning when Charles Martin, Tom knows, 30 years ago. I mean, the city had talked about Hamburg Park on that side. There was a lot of that. The reality is that our council's focus has been downtown and out to the country club. There is that gap as far as the Fifth Street Bridge, which I think at some point we do need to connect. But it just hadn't been a priority from council for a lot of years.
Well, I don't
And it
want
just so happened that the Augusta had their transportation splossed about that time, and they put an item in there to do that project, and it was a result of having this plan before. But I don't think the people that were looking at it from the public side realized what was happening on the private side so much, and that got funded, but that's $10 million they spent on that. So,
to go nowhere. I mean,
bridge to nowhere,
not a lot of
but maybe
action
there's
on
a
it.
chance to cure that.
Yeah. But I just want to see little old North Augusta get tied up in something we can't get out of.
Councilwoman, I would say is the mechanics, as you asked about, how would this go, is very similar to what I'm bringing next week regarding Tommy Paradise's request for the CIP, the impact fee study. So it's very similar mechanics, but what it would be is a future ARPA request tied to a governmental transfer, if you will, to this study.
And then the federal funding, I mean, I'm not sure about all this. Bill Hicks, where did he go? He left. All right. Being two different states, well, do you think that will be a problem?
Actually, it's
we don't see it as different. North Augusta,
federal grants, Councilwoman, are actually,
I worry about that.
that actually makes it a stronger grant request when you have a larger region or two states working together. But again, that's not making promises based on what the federal government's going to do in an out year. If I could figure that out, I'd probably own
But I would love to see.
crystal ball stand or something. But that makes it a stronger argument to have a two-state solution.
I think our councils, as a council, we've got to, individuals have to say, is there a value in regionalism? We have a river between us, it's not a wall. Augusta has a mayor now and I think is putting together a team that we realize that when something good happens in downtown Augusta, it benefits North Augusta. Something happens in North Augusta, benefits Augusta. Something happens in Columbia County. I mean, the CSRA is a whole, so I think there's value in that. We just will have to decide as a council how much value we see in it, but I think there's value in it. And so anyway, gentlemen, ladies, thank you for your time. Thank you for your leadership, what you're doing. And you've given us good information. We will talk further and get back in touch with you with an answer, if that's all right. All right. Thank y'all very much. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, next item on the focus areas is from a presentation from North Augusta Forward, so I will defer to Avery.
Got your high heels on.
Committee members here too that can join me. Y'all worked on this too. All right, so first of all, thank you guys for having us.
Avery, state your name and address for the record.
Avery Spears Mahoney, 336 Georgia Avenue, Suite 201.
Thank you.
And we, first of all, appreciate your leadership and partnership on bringing the Downtown Greenway Connector Phase 1 to fruition, because as many of you know, and our committee members, we've been working on this for a long time. And so we're very thankful for that at the very beginning of the Phase 1 and trying to get this thing to completion. So when we started Phase 1, North Augusta Forward partnered with Studio Maine, Blake Sanders, to provide us with the plan for getting Phase 1 underway. And he showed in the plan, sorry, I'm not paying attention to you, I'm looking at my phone. He showed in the plan several recommendations about once we got the Downtown Greenway Connector open, what it would look like in terms of branding. You can go to the next slide. He provided several images in the plan that you can see that just have some elements of letting people know, kind of how to use this space. There you can see some of the banners and the sidewalk decals. And then this is one of the alleys that will be near Phase 1, and that may be happening more directly with the Beacon Bluff project. So Blake gave us some examples in there, but those were just really Photoshop examples. They weren't, he didn't have a marketing plan included in it. So our committee has worked with Communigraphics and Blake's input for the signs that are on the next slide. That would allow us to show the Downtown Greenway connector, teach users how to navigate off the Greenway into downtown and what to do once they get there. You can go to the next one. So these times obviously aren't correct, but it's just showing you how we could indicate to them that they get off the connector down near Hammond's Ferry, come up Bluff Avenue, and then once they get there, you know, where do they go? Where are the other things that they need to be looking for? So the Health and Leisure Committee, which are my members that are here tonight, have worked on this. There's one more, I think, image. This is a decal for the sidewalk that could be used as well. But we've worked on this and tried to be thoughtful in what the users would be looking for and the information they would need. And we also have, there is one more, sorry. We also have accommodations tax funding that we would like to use to bring all of this marketing and branding into the fold. One more slide. That we could use for, that we've asked for an extension on, so that we can work with you guys to see how do we bring this marketing and branding component to the Downtown Greenway connector. Blake also shared just a couple of ideas of other trails within South Carolina that have done similar branding and marketing projects. So, for example, the Swamp Rabbit Trail, they have the blue line, the green line, and the orange line that are all kind of branded differently. And then the Palmetto Trail, they have several areas. That's a bigger trail, but they have several areas like the Peach Passage, Peak to Prosperity Rail Trail, and the Walhalla Wanderweg, and several others. So there's examples out there of communities that have done this and done it successfully to market and brand those different areas of a trail system. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
So what we're trying to do, so we've got the Downtown Greenway connector. So the thought is the Downtown Greenway connector is, as far as branding and for our citizens and tourists, it's part of the Greenway, but it's a different piece because we're trying to get into downtown. So with doing that, I'm assuming, which I like, I don't know if y'all looked at it.
Yes.
The idea is we are trying to brand it with the different, what you're showing here, the colors and all that.
Certainly. And backing up a little bit, I mean, I know all of you know this, but we see this as an economic engine for downtown businesses. So getting people off the Greenway Trail to spend money in our downtown with our downtown businesses, restaurants, that's the goal of the Downtown Greenway Connector. Phase 1 will get us started, and then as we move through the phases, they're going to probably look and feel different from phase to phase, really, because it depends on how the area is being used that we're phasing into. Mm-hmm. So this one will look different than maybe an alley system. So we just want to make sure that from the outset that we're branding it and marketing it and preparing people for that full experience once we get to phase
What was
final.
that? Tell about the end. That's the river and end north and the river.
So
What's that?
the logo
Some
that's
people
the
know that.
Greenway logo that's on there, that's from the Main Street consultants that came in a few years ago and worked with us on our downtown redevelopment and revitalization plan, and they provided that. And that's the two lines that make up the sides of the N are Center Street and the river, or downtown and Riverside Village, and then the river is the in-between. Arnett Muldrow was on that team, and they designed it.
That's cool.
And I think the goal too is to get it brighter and bolder, to kind of get it compared to what the regular Greenway signage, to kind of draw people, draw families, draw walkability up into downtown. So that's kind of
We have to change that perception of the individual.
yeah.
Yes.
So trying to connect to all ages and abilities and everything like that to draw them off the Greenway up into downtown.
Right, and
Yeah, so-
because it's a different experience
It
than a
is.
trail that
Yeah.
you're using. So we want to differentiate that and make that obvious.
Well, now Avery, are these flags or what are they? I mean,
The signs.
yeah, I mean, they signs put on a pole
So the
or?
white, those are banners, pole
Banners,
banners,
okay.
for like light poles, for example.
All right.
Then if you go back, those are the decals that can be used on the sidewalk, that
Right,
Blake
okay.
has had good experience with those. And then if you go back another one, these are signs. So they would, a metal sign on a pole.
On a pole, okay.
Yes. And we would need to, again, indicate where to get off the greenway. Right now, it's not that obvious. And then from there, where do you go and what do you do when you get to a certain point?
Okay.
And really, I don't think we were so focused as Forest City doing everything Tom has been doing, we really haven't had a conversation about the signage, so I think for y'all to step forward is positive.
Absolutely.
Brandon, so I like it.
And I'll admit, I went and ran the dog park path, so that looked really good. And then I ran up Bluff Avenue yesterday, and coming off the Greenway, there's definitely, you can't tell exactly where to go at all yet. So signage is a big importance there. And just, I like having like the minutes per bike or walkability so that people know like kind of what they're getting themselves into
Right.
when they're stepping off and trying to, if they don't know the area, it's a lot helpful to know, okay, it's only going to take me 10 minutes to get somewhere versus 30 minutes or something like that.
Exactly, yeah, we
y'all.
thought that was pretty important too. But the signage and I guess the combination of all of it, just getting people's attention and getting them to move through that space.
Will it match all of our signage throughout North Augusta? Because I'd
That's
hate
the whole
for,
advantage, we don't want it to.
ooh,
What
I'd
would-
say yes,
because
we do
what-
want it.
Well,
I mean, not, I want you, what
It's just sort of
Jennifer
down
was
to the Greenway
saying.
connection.
Yeah, I mean, to know, but having, yeah, I
just
know,
the
but,
Greenway piece.
we
Not the
still-
Greenway, just the downtown Green connector at Bluff.
but we have signs that's,
We don't have signs.
no, not the Greenway, just our signage
she's
throughout the
talking about
city.
the wayfinding
No matter
signs.
what
Well,
we're
we don't have
doing.
wayfinding.
Well, we do have some.
Yeah, there's
and
some
then
way-
we
Yeah.
looked,
Yeah.
and this was before, we looked at this years ago, Kevin. And
Yeah, it's,
David and Pat, you should remember, I mean, and Avery, I think y'all were in on that too. No, we actually looked at wayfind, Libby did this.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, I don't know whatever happened to
I
that,
got a book
but
of it if you want to look at
you
it.
got a book. I mean, I hate to
There
say
were
it,
some good
but
ideas in
Rachel
there.
would probably know more than anybody. But I mean, we literally looked at that. Kevin, you ever remember what happened to that? Because I mean, we were looking at wayfind.
Yeah, wayfinding, you're right.
Wayfinding.
Yeah, it was for
But
the
we were also
entire
talking
city.
about doing this exact same thing, all grouped into one, and, you know, COVID and whatever else
Yeah.
happened, and so I don't know what happened to that, but we did at one time look at new wayfinding sign, I don't know, yeah, Fletcher was here. Yeah, so I don't know what happened to it, but yeah, it was connecting this with what Miss Pat's talking about. So that was talked about, but that's probably been 4 years ago.
Yeah, and this is just kind of basic in terms of, I think it could tie into other things that come online as you move through things. The signage out there now, I think, is kind of a white and blue, the wayfinding that you're talking about, so.
Yeah, to me, I don't consider this wayfind, I mean, it is, but not in what we're used to, like when you're at Georgia Avenue and Marktown Road, we have that sign that says, take a right to Municipal
Right.
Center or whatever. That's not what this is. We're gonna have wayfinding that will fit in with this. This is, hey, man, I'm excited, I'm on the green, what, downtown green connected 10 minutes ago, get ice cream cone, man, fire it up.
Yeah, and
we're-
this is
we're
for
trying to
pedestrian
brand people,
level.
pedestrians, to get them
Yeah.
excited.
That's what I was going to say, kind of wayfinding for pedestrian, walkability, cycling in that format. And it would be in phase formats, Pat.
Yeah.
So like this would be for Bluff. And then if we ever phase down the alleyways, probably continuing this color scheme and concept through that. But then the actual downtown itself would then become in question on, do we need to change that wayfinding or does it stick to what it is? That's-
And then there's two different purposes, to your point. So this one would just be strictly for pedestrian use and scaled that way. That other signage, the plan was broad for the entire city for all the vehicular signage as well. But we will
That's an
also.
issue we need to address as a
Sure.
council, but that's a
Yeah.
whole different ballgame.
And I think this would tie in nicely with anything that was picked. But also, we'll potentially have additional funds, for ATAX funds, after we do this, that we could use for marketing, or if there are other amenities that we feel like we want to include at that connection point, water fountains, anything you guys can think of, the committee would love those recommendations to consider.
You would just
And-
need to coordinate with Tom,
Yep.
Shoots and Drains. where
Yep.
it's
So we're
places, all that
open
needs
to
do.
all of
It's a
that
lot
as well.
More legwork, but I like the idea myself.
We greatly appreciate the work that's been done thus far. So.
don't think anything we
Any
have
other
to
questions?
vote on, I think just a consensus that, huh? I think you have to move it forward and get your people to work with our people and your people call our
Yeah.
people and the logistics, but I think as far as council, we like the brand and it sounds good.
Okay, thank you guys, appreciate your help.
Thank you, appreciate all your efforts.
Mr. Mayor, I have no administrative reports, and that is all from the staff this evening.
Okay, only things I want to announce is the North Augusta Chamber ribbon cutting is at the Feed Sack. Is it Wednesday? Third Thursday is up on the 21st. And then I want to thank Jamie, and I'll do a lot more on the 18th, but we officially have got all the votes in for the coloring contest. We'll be going to the winter school Thursday, and Jamie we're giving them, tell them what we're giving them. We're getting a downtown coloring book, which is awesome if you haven't seen that.
Yeah, they'll be receiving the downtown coloring book along with a $10 gift card from Pink Dipper that they donated for us, so thank you.
Since they colored Pink Dipper, what better things? And you should reach out to Kathy, who owns Pink Dipper. I know she's excited about it. So if you haven't had a chance yet, let people know to come. It'll be up all to the rest of the year, right? Okay, perfect. That's all I got. Anything else, Ms. Pat? You have anything for y'all? All right, thank y'all. We stand adjourned.